So today is our MUISS Alumni Night series and for Faculty of Engineering. And it's a bit of introduction for today. So we're gonna have a this is a timeline of today. So we're gonna start with the International Student Engagement team to share about their surveys and things like that. And then after that, we're gonna have our introduction about our alumni, friendly alumni. And in the end, we're gonna have our Q&A session. And at the slides, as you can see at the corner, we have this QR code, which is a short survey that we designed for our sessions. So for all the participants, if you want to, you can scan this QR code and give us feedbacks so that you have the chance to get into our $20 voucher lucky draw. A little bit of housekeeping. So how well the alumni introduce themselves, you guys are more than welcome to send your questions into the Q&A box. So if you go down to the bottom, you will see chat and Q&A box. So please send the questions into that function instead of the chat function, because the question may go lost in the chat area. And if you have specific questions towards one alumnus, please name the question with, like, put the question and their names in there so that they know it's about their questions. And please submit your question in a respectful manner. If you have any feedback, as what I said before, just scan the QR code. So now, let's welcome our ISE team.
Thank you, Susan. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Ibrahim. I'm part of the International Student Engagement team. I'll share my screen now so you can see my presentation. Thank you.
No worries.
All right. Okay, so can everybody see that?
Yep.
All right, great. Yes. Okay, everybody. So as I said, I'm from the International Student Engagement team. Just a little bit of an introduction. If you don't already know about my team helps international students with any issues, problems, while you're a student at Monash, okay? So today I'm going to present a little bit about you finishing up your studies at Monash. So we'll be covering graduations, resources and tools if you're staying or leaving, rental support and rent relief, career support for now and after graduations, okay? You'll find that there are QR codes and some also UR links that you can, perhaps I would advise you to take photos or scan the QR codes as we go along, okay? All right. So this is from a previous session. We did have visa information sessions the last 2 weeks. We're not having any more this semester, but if you would like more advice on your visa, you can find a registered agent through mara.gov.au. We advise you to go through a registered agent that's on the mara.gov.au website. Don't go through somebody who's not registered, okay, for your safety and so that you can get up-to-date official information. Okay, so graduation documents. So basically, if you're not too sure, it's always best to contact the Department of Home Affairs in regards to, you know, visa, for example, about graduating and remaining on shore or going offshore, okay? So your go-to really is the Department of Home Affairs, because that's where you'll get the correct information, or as I mentioned previously, a migration agent via the previous website, okay, mara.gov.au. So basically, if you would like more information, you can also go to that website, monash.edu/connect/letters, okay? So Monash Connect is your go-to at the university. So if you're not too sure about your graduation, if it's going to be held, not held, if it's delayed, any of the logistics processes, please contact Monash Connect. That's their phone number down there. And if you're overseas already, then it's +613. And if you're onshore in Melbourne, 9902 6011. Or just type in ask.monash via Google, and you can submit your questions to them. Okay. Okay. So just to reiterate, Monash Connect is your go-to if you have any graduation-related questions, especially now with the pandemic. You want to make sure of any specific dates and processes. Okay. So this is really important. So, you know, practical considerations if you're leaving or moving, all right? So this website that you can see a sort of a little screenshot of on the right there is really good. You can see the URL there at the bottom, and I'll show you a QR code on the next page, which will give you more links as well. So basically, in a nutshell, if you're not too sure about what to do, like with your furniture and any clothes that you want to take back home with you, okay, you can go through the checklist, okay? So if we go to here, if you scan that QR code, that'll take you to this web page, which has several links that will help you to prepare to either just finish up at the university and move to another place in Melbourne or elsewhere in Australia, or planning to go back to your home country, okay? So basically, you know, what do you do with your furniture? What do you do with your clothes? If you want to give away things, for example, you might want to give it away to charity, as an example, okay? Career planning as well, or further study. So these are some things that you can read more about via those websites. Okay, another thing is your accommodation, okay? So if you're not too sure about how to finish up your rental agreement, so if you've got a little bit more time on your rental agreement, but you're planning to, you know, leave your accommodation sooner than the end of your rental agreement, maybe you want to move to another place in Melbourne, or you're just planning to return to your home country, my advice would be for you to contact the MRS off-campus accommodation team. MRS, as you may know, is Monash Residential Services. That's their email there. And they'll be more than happy to give you advice and help, and to know what your rights and responsibilities are in regard to that, okay? And also, if you want to learn a little bit more about rental help, I'll show you some information about that in a moment. Okay, so if you don't know about it yet, you may be eligible for rent relief due to COVID-19 and the impacts of it. If you haven't already checked your eligibility, then I advise you to look into it a bit further. MRS off-campus accommodation team will be able to give you advice and also to give you further links and information, okay? Otherwise, you can do a Google search and just type in rent relief grant Melbourne, okay? And that should lead you to the right information. Okay, and of course, some of you who are planning to remain in Australia, you want to consider, you know, career options, work options, etc. So this is a good website to perhaps get started, but it's not your only resource, okay? But it would be a good start. So you can see the URL there on the bottom right, joboutlook.gov.au, to start clicking and doing some research to see what's available, like through the government and also through other sources. It's best to go through, I'll move on from that one, to Career Connect, okay? So Career Connect is your go-to. If you have any career-related questions about, you know, getting a job onshore in Australia, or even when you return back to your home country and how to, you know, find work, etc. There might be even like international work expos, you know. internationally, not just in Australia, it's worth connecting with Career Connect to ask those questions, because they're the ones who are qualified to guide you and inform you accordingly. Okay, so if you, again, scan that QR code, take a photo of those URLs and visit them later, there's a lot of good, useful information, and there's good people who can advise you accordingly. Okay, that's come to the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about anything that I've discussed today, or if there's anything else that you need help with, please contact my team, iss@monash.edu. We'll be more than happy to assist you. Okay, I wish you all the best in finalizing your studies and in your future. Take care.
Great, thank you so much. Apparently there's a lot of services to help international students go through everything that they need when they're transitioning from students to into the workforce. Now it's time to just give me one moment. Let me share my screen again. So now it's time to have a bit of talk about our alumni. So welcome Patek to introduce himself to us.
Hello everyone, thank you for having me here. So I studied civil engineering back in my home country, and then I worked in project management in an engineering and construction project for 5 years. And after that, I decided to move to Australia to study further. So I studied Master of Laws, Juris Doctor, so it's a law degree from Monash, and that I completed that in 2019. And currently I'm working as an analyst consultant at a consulting firm. So alongside studies, I've been involved in a lot of volunteering activities and roles which have really helped me build a lot of skills. And some of it are already mentioned on the screen, as you can see, but I'm happy to discuss about these a bit more in detail as we go along and explain how some of those roles have helped me to gain some of the skills that have made it easy for me to get some of the jobs. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Now, just our next alumni, Niraj, do you mind to introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, thanks, Susan. I'm just gonna share my screen and put some extra slides, if that's okay. Yep, fantastic. Cool. Just gonna try to fit in within the 5 minutes. Yeah. So my name is Niraj. Originally from a small island called Mauritius. By the way, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Great. Yeah. So in 2009, came to Australia to Monash and started to do my Bachelor's of Aerospace Engineering. And then when I graduated in 2012. I ended up working in sales for a couple of years. And then at the tail end of that, I went back to Monash to do a master's in engineering part-time. And then right after that, I got employed in my current role as an aerospace engineer at Helimots, where I've evolved since. In terms of student experiences, there were really 3 pillars that defined my life as a student, especially as an undergrad. I got the chance to live at halls for many years. Now, I know a lot of people don't have the chance to undertake that, but if you do get the chance, even for half a semester, even to make sure you jump on that, the cross-pollination of ideas there with international students, with exchange students, with other students is just fantastic. I also was very much involved with the soccer club at Monash. I played there for 3 or 4 years during my undergrad. That was really home-based for me because it really helped fight homesickness, because football is very, very much popular in Mauritius. And at the same time, it allowed me to settle into the social aspects of, I guess, Aussie culture. There was a lot of social events involved there. And finally, in an academics point of view, I always try to push for really interesting projects as an engineer. Monash is very much, for engineering at least, very much catered towards academia. So I had to push for more hands-on kind of work and got to be to work on a pretty interesting project with the Monash UAS, the Anman Aerial Services I was one of the team leaders there during my final year. And then when I went back to do my master's, I got to work on a pretty interesting project with the Paralympic athletes named Stuart Tripp. Yeah, I'm going to move on to some very quick tips. Hopefully, we can have a bit more questions during the Q&A. But my first tip is to try and get involved with as much wide variety of clubs as you can at Monash. There's so many student clubs. I personally probably regret not getting involved with as many clubs as I could. But yeah, so try to see what interests people, what gets people together, the different ideas there. For example, I remember during my third year, all of a sudden I wanted to see what the Debaters Club was all about, and I just rocked up there for a couple of their meetings, and you learn a lot of things through that. The other tip, and that probably applies, like Pratik was saying, very important with volunteering. I know as a student, a lot of time is very limited as a resource. I found that after I graduated, I got a lot more time resource to actually volunteer in different things. And volunteering allows you to build your network really fast and really easily. Also allows you to test out new ideas, because the requirements or expectations are much lower there in that regard. So for myself, I've been volunteering for the last 2 years at the Queensland Air Museum, most notably. And funnily enough, I started out volunteering there as an engineer, so doing restoration and all that, but actually I ended up doing most of my volunteering in the marketing side of things, which taught me a lot more. So it just really widens the skill set. And finally, I've been thinking more and more lately about how, with the current COVID situation and the fact that a lot of businesses are closing, and you're going to have basically quite a high supply of people looking for jobs on the market. Try and not discount the idea of freelancing and starting your own thing. If you do a little bit of web design, even on the side, maybe try and see if you can hit up volunteer or non-for-profit organization and see if you can redo their websites, and maybe you can start something there. Even if that doesn't work, at least you would have learned a broader range of skill sets there. So it's all about broadening your range of skill sets that you can bring. Yeah, that's all I wanted to fit in within those 5 minutes. Those are my details, and I'll pass the floor back to Susan now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It seems like you had a really great time during your study at Monash. So now I'm just gonna continue sharing my screen again. Thank you.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna go to our next alumnus. So Laura, do you mind to introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Laura, and I graduated from the Master of Advanced Civil Water Engineering in December last year. Currently, I'm working at Jacobs, which is a consulting firm in engineering, and I work as a graduate surface water engineer within the water resources team at Brisbane office. And all what I would say, my student experience at Monash was really rewarding and fruitful. I think that, as Nira was saying, Monash has plenty of opportunities for students to grow and to try different things. And I would say that it is very important to take advantage of those spaces. Say the generator, if you have an idea and try to go through the path of entrepreneurship, then that's a good place to go. Also to have access to the gym and workout meanwhile you are doing your studies, that's very important and part of your well-being. And also if you have the access to labs and to volunteer for projects with different professors, then definitely go for it. And I would like just to share that in my case, so I had the chance to, I started volunteering. I first applied for a summer research scholarship. Meanwhile, I was at Monash, and I had the chance to had that scholarship. And during the summer, I was supporting a research project. And because of that experience, I managed to stay within the research team for the whole next year. That was my last year of my master's degree. And with that project, actually, they did a partnership with a university in Netherlands. And at the end, just before my graduation, I ended up going to the Netherlands, completely sponsored by Monash, with all the expenses covered, as part of the research project that was being carried out. And I think that those opportunities happen when you do your best and when you approach to professors and volunteer your time wisely. Yeah, and that's all from me.
All right, thank you so much. So now is our Q&A time. Just another thing that I want to emphasize a little bit more is like, please ask questions that are appropriate, like career planning, study tips, interview tips, things like that. Try not to ask about visa or PR matters. We will have a specific session for that, and then also some personal infos and things like that. All right. So now I can see we have quite a bit of questions in the Q&A box. So our alumni, you can go in there and type your response, or you can mark that as a live response so that we can talk about it, and then our other alumni can also give some other tips and tricks that they have. All right. Thank you, guys. So yeah, we have quite a bit of questions in the Q&A box. So if any questions that you guys want to answer, feel free to mark them as answer live. And if some questions you want to answer in the type minor, so you can also type them in. All right. There's one questions that has been asked. Is what kind of benefits when we join alumni network? Any alumni want to answer that question?
I can try
Yes.
to answer that one. So I think definitely if you join alumni network, networking is a very powerful tool for your career progression, and definitely is a good space to start with for networking opportunities and to meet people, and yeah, I would say it is very useful, and the most useful thing is just networking.
Yeah, definitely. Any other things that want to be mentioned?
Yeah, I think that maybe the other thing is trying to, I guess, like what we're trying to do here, like trying to give some of those advice back with what we have learned. Hopefully it might help someone out there.
Yeah, cool. There's another question. So someone asked, I have no working experience in Australia besides English is my second language. How can I get a job?
So I can start off with that.
Yeah.
So yes, maybe, we do not have working experience say, in engineering or in what we are studying, but if we are involved in volunteering roles and clubs and societies, as Neeraj was saying, a lot of it translates into work experience. And that's also kind of another links into another question that's asked further down, is that, how do you sort of link your university studies to practical experience? Because yes, if you're working, a part of it will be your engineering knowledge, but a lot of that is all your, people management skills, how you deal with work, how you deal with your colleagues, things like that. And most of that comes through your volunteering experience, especially in clubs and societies, because there you are dealing with people from different cultures, different age groups, and perhaps even different studies, like different fields of study. So that helps you to sort of understand that if you're explaining something to, say, a non-engineer, how you would explain the same thing, or if you're talking to technically to someone, how you would explain that. So I think it's a lot of skills like this that would help you in a job. And once you start to get involved in volunteering roles, it also helps you to build your leadership skills, which I think it's quite important when you sort of move on to the next step in your career.
That makes sense. That's a great answer. Anyone else want to add on to that? No? Okay. If there's no add-ons, I'm going to move on to the next question. Is that okay? Awesome. So another interesting question. So someone asked, how did I find a job back in your own country if you want to go back instead of staying in Australia?
Yeah, I can try to talk about that a little bit, although I'm not sure how good of an answer I can get. I've been thinking about that a little bit lately, about trying to keep options open. If I want to go back to Mauritius and find a job there, how would I actually go about doing that? And the only thing I can really think of is to, at the end of the day, it all revolves back to your network, really. And the network that unfortunately I don't have a massive network there, but I do have a little bit of a network from when I did some internship back there when I was a student. So for me personally, I can speak, if I was going to go back and look for something there, I would definitely try and reach out to them. And one of the things that I've been trying to do over the years is to try and keep contact with people, even if I've done an internship at a company, say ages ago, many years, to try and touch base once in a while, just to keep that contact, just that I know what's happening, I know what the situation is. If there's anything comes up, maybe that person can help me, maybe I can help them in the future. You never know. So trying to keep contact with people through your network is really important. And that, especially if you're wanting to go back, that might be especially important then.
That makes sense. Yeah. Anyone else want to add on to that? No. Well, yeah, and then also as what ISE previously said in their introduction session, Monash definitely have other resources to help you out in terms of going back to your own country. As what ISE mentioned previously, we also have international career expo, things like that. So that will definitely help you out in terms of that. And the next question, Patik want to answer that question. I saw that marked. How to do well in interview?
Yes, so one of the things I can say here is that, of course, it's also understanding about what the role is all about. Like, is it a technical role, or is it, more of something like sales, something that involves interacting with people? Because that will then help us to understand, or help you to understand what the employer is looking for from the candidate. And one of the best things to do is, most of the jobs, they always have some contact number that, if you have queries about this job, please reach out to this person. The best thing is always to pick up the phone, call them, and ask them that, okay, I saw about these roles, or sorry, I saw about this particular role and I saw it has these requirements. What it is it exactly that this role is about? Of course, once you read, you have some questions, and you can always pick up the phone and ask those questions, because that will then help you to understand what they're looking for in the candidate and what sort of questions can come up in the interview. And like, for example, when I did my interview with the consulting firm, they asked me, like, do you have any experience in like preparing reports, or, like with facts, figures, and things like that? And at that time, I actually took a printed copy of the report that I submitted for my internship, as well as a printed copy of the publication that I did while I was a participant for the Monash Law Ambassador program. So those were really practical and tangible things that I could show to them in hand, and they could flip through it and they said, yes, this is exactly what we are looking for. And I think that report is not just about how well I can maybe design or present something, but it's also about how well I can write, things like that. So it covers a lot of things, and you can draw upon that if you have it in your hand to answer a lot of questions and say that, okay, yes, even if it's technical questions, you can say that, oh yes, I did this design work, and these calculations are on this page of the report. This is how I would do it. So I think having something in hand really helps you when you are going in an interview. Yep.
Yeah, I would say I would like to add on that, and definitely if you're having an interview, you need to prepare for it. You need to set time apart before the interview to prepare, to research the company, to understand what is the role about, what they will be looking for, and try to go to someone that can make you a mock interview, and that you can have the feeling like, okay, I'm in an interview and I'm being asked about myself, about my experience, about what I know, and that's definitely important. So grab a friend, tell them, hey, prepare me for this interview, let's practice, and I think that's very important. And yeah, take the interview seriously and prepare for that.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to add also to that, so just in terms of the mindset of going into an interview, interviews are the most nerve-wracking things that you'll ever do probably. I've gone previously in interviews. I was so anxious, I was shaking, and I just couldn't talk. But then more and more, I learned that try to get into the mindset of thinking that not only they are interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them, and trying to find if not only if you're a good fit for the organization, but also if they're going to be a good fit for you. And I know that's really hard to do sometimes mentally when you're really trying to get something out there. But that's a really good mindset to have, because it allows you to ask then really deep and interesting questions to the employer, to the person who's interviewing them, and they'll just help you stand out a bit more. And another, I guess, more practical method that I've used in the past to kind of calm my nerves for interviews is try to imagine that I'm going out to meet an old friend before the interview. And it always turns out that I'm a lot more relaxed then, because I'm notorious for getting really anxious before those kind of big things. So that really helps me to calm down. And when I actually meet that person, I'm like, hey, that's just an old friend that I'm meeting. And the conversation actually flows a lot naturally then.
Yeah, and also there is a TED talk that is called, I really love that talk. It is called kind of Fake It Till You Make It. And it is something, she shares some research that has been done on power posing. And so one of her advices is, if you are going to give a presentation, if you are going to go through this kind of situations, go first to the bathroom or a place where you can feel comfortable, where you are alone, when no one is looking, and just try to do this posings, like your arms lifted, like you can do it. And really, I think that's very useful. And I myself, I practice that. Meanwhile, I was being interviewed, because for the job, my current job that I had, my interview was just a phone call, not even a video phone call, so they were not looking at me, but it was just a phone call. So meanwhile, the phone call, hearing their questions, I was like this, like, yes, I can do it. So definitely, those are tips that I can say they work, and I would highly recommend that TED Talk, Fake It Till You Make It. Yeah, it's good.
All right, you're not the only one who's done this stupid pose, by the way. Like I've done them also.
Yeah, very useful.
Yeah, that sounds really useful. I'm personally gonna try it as well. Because I also have interview coming up. I'm really gonna try that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. The tips are really solid. And next question. So someone asked, how to deal with mental stress and rejection during the application process for jobs and internships.
Yes, I'll start off with this because I marked it. So, having a positive mindset is important, but at the same time, I think we should also be aware that, we are competing with a lot of other candidates out there, and it is okay if I get rejected from this job. Yes, I want it badly, but, if I'm rejected, I'll try and reach out to them and see if they're able to provide me any feedback on what could be the reason why I got rejected. Is it because I just didn't have the experience what they were looking for, or what was the reason? Sometimes some companies do reply if you try to reach out to them, but if you would really if you would really start beating yourself up for every rejection, then it's just going to affect the confidence really badly. And instead of being confident with each and every application, you'd rather start becoming weak with each and every application, saying that, oh, this is most likely going to be rejected, and that's probably not the right way to think about it. So I know it's a tricky when I say that yes, having a positive mindset, that I'm doing my best to get this role, but then again, that if I don't get it, it's okay. Let me see what I have one more set of resume and key selection criteria in my hand, which I can use the next time. Yep.
Yeah, I think definitely that's one of the. I said that last time, but I'm probably the worst person to ask advice for when applying for work. I took so many years to actually get something in engineering. I ended up working in sales for many years, but I was applying all the time, and I just kept getting rejected after rejection. And at some point, it just, just like Pratik was saying, I allowed myself to be beaten down, and I started really questioning my own abilities very seriously. And I was like, maybe I should consider something else as a career, and maybe even go back and try to find something there. So I was quite desperate in that sense. But yeah, it's just trying to make sure that you don't question yourself in that way. Make sure that you learn from this rejection, but don't question yourself personally and your worth as a person, which can remake things remake things bad. But yeah, and yeah, that's it. Trying to keep a positive mindset, but it's easier said than done in the real world. You can't getting rejection after rejection.
Yeah, and I would also say that it is important to speak to someone about it, like having a friend and share the pain, because I also felt it. I also was rejected. And funny story, my current job came after a rejection from one of my applications, and I just went back to the person that referred me, who was my referee for that application that I was rejected, and told him, look, this didn't went well, and they select another person. And then he said, don't give up. I know a friend in another company, but are you ready to move to Brisbane? And so that's the thing, that you just have to keep on trying, and to speak to someone and to share it with a friend, and let the ones around you knowing that you are going through a difficult situation, so you don't bury it yourself alone.
By the way, one of the things that I thought after I got my current role at Home Office is that I imagine myself, if I did get all those other jobs that I wish I could have gotten, I wouldn't have been in this great situation that I'm in, and the great work that I'm doing at the moment, the exciting work working on helicopters. And then I look at my other mates who actually got jobs quite fast. Now, at the time, I was like, why am I not in their situation? Why am I not getting anything? But I wouldn't trade places with them. Yeah. So just thinking that all the rejections at some point is going to lead you to something really good.
Great tips. Yeah, it's just trying to maintain a positive mindset. I think that's what we need to do in this situation. Next question. So how long have you been working in Australia, and what skills did you build on to interrogate into Aussie people? This question is specific to Niraj.
Yeah. So I worked during my last year of undergrad, and then I've been working ever since. So that was 2011. Yeah, so quite a while. To integrate in the culture, that's a really good question. I remember when I first came here, had massive trouble with the language. Had trouble with not necessarily speaking it, but when people were speaking to each other, I couldn't really understand what they were saying. And more importantly, I couldn't understand the humor, the Australian humor. It just didn't. Even if I did get it, I wouldn't find it funny. That took a while for me to understand and actually get into. So yeah, that took a while, but I think what really helped me personally was the fact that I was always immersed with, say, with a soccer club or staying at halls. I was always immersed in that environment, so that really helped me. If you're not in that situation, then you go back to trying to get yourself immersed within that environment, within volunteering. Comes back to volunteering again, if you can do that. Yeah, just trying to get imbibed into the culture is really important. I think I've answered the question, maybe. What skills do you need? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So just to expand a little bit more on that too. I took the detour of working in sales for a while. And while I wasn't working in engineering directly and contributing to my career there, that detour actually helped me, I reckon, helped me more than if I had gone directly into an engineering role. That enabled me to, I was a very introverted person before I went into those roles. I couldn't really speak to people. And that really helped me break that introversion. And actually is one of the main reasons I got into the role that I'm currently in. So they were looking for someone who didn't only have the technical skills, but also have a lot of the softer skills. And I'm actually using the softer skills a lot at work. Yes.
I would like to say, just to add on how to integrate within the Aussie culture. As international students and foreigners, it's very easy to keep our friends and the people that we are surrounded from from the same country that we are coming from, because of course that's comfortable. But then you have to force yourself to make friends and to be surrounded by people original from Australia, because that's the best way to learn about their culture, learn about what they value, what's important for them, learn about their humor, the style of jokes. And so you have to push yourself to get immersed in other groups and to share time with people from Australia. And I think that Monash has many environments and groups where you can achieve that. So yeah, that would be my best advice to integrate into the Australian culture.
Well, that sounds perfect. Yeah, keep an open mind and trying to step out of your comfort zone is the thing that you need to do in terms of getting to know the Australian culture. The next question is about interview again. I think we have mentioned enough about interview tips previously when Pratik answered the question. So I don't think we need to continue answering that. So the next question that probably worth to answer will be the question that Pratik marked. How did you find transferring from university to workforce?
Yes, so I can start off with that. So my
Pratik, just to...
Yeah. So
thank you.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
My previous role was in project management, and within that role, I used a little bit of my engineering knowledge, but a lot of it was about, I had to start learning about planning, and I had to start learning about like procurement, a little bit about finance as well, and like processing invoices. I had to also deal with, because I was in project management, we also had a lot to deal with like the contracts team the legal team, the business development team. So in that role, I found that I was using a little bit of my engineering knowledge, but a lot of it was actually learning about a whole set of new skills and seeing that how that applies into engineering. Whereas, for example, if someone is in a design role, you are really using your core engineering knowledge and all the calculations and things like that and formula and all of that you have used. So different roles would require you to have different sets of skills or transfer different sets of skills from university to workforce. And I think, or from what I have seen, is that unless we are in like a core design role, we use very less of engineering knowledge in our day-to-day work. Of course, it is helpful because it helps us to understand things that we do. Like if a drawing is put in front of us or if a written document is put, we'll understand what it's trying to say technically, but we wouldn't really be, using like doing calculations or drawing graphs and stuff. And I think with your experience, Laura or Neeraj, you could speak more about, how much of your engineering knowledge have you been using and sort of what helped you to transfer skills to the workforce?
Yeah, I think my situation was a little bit different in the sense that where I evolved in, we actually are very technically focused. So I remember when I started working, I was thinking, man, I should really have paid attention in my structures, aerospace structures class, because I couldn't remember anything that I studied, and I was having to apply them right there, and I had to go back and look at my old lecture notes and try to figure things out. Yeah, so that was a bit of a challenge for me at first, but completely right that it wasn't just those technical engineering skills, but it was also a lot of those softer skills married around that. I'm trying to actually remember what the question was. Sorry, what was the question?
How did you find transferring from university to
so I'm trying to look for it in the drop down. Yeah. So that was exactly, that was the challenge for me there, because I expected it not to be as technical than it was, but it was actually pretty technical in that sense. Yeah, and I guess the thing that was a little bit more different in that in the workforce, it's a lot more figuring things out yourself. Like it's not, and that's pretty obvious. Like you're not going to get like a problem like well written out for you. You're basically defining what the problem is or should be, and you're trying to solve it for yourself, which makes it a lot more fun and interesting, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I think that transition from uni to the workforce is just, I wouldn't say it usually is smooth, because I personally find any change challenging. But if hopefully, if you have picked up a good company to start with, hopefully you will be surrounded by a great team that will support you and that will take care of the graduate. And I think that is very important. Yes, in uni we learn a lot and we learn a lot of stuff, but experience is something that a book will not replace ever. The uni doesn't teach you how to deal with senior engineers, with project managers, how to there are many practical things that uni just doesn't teach you, and you just need to be open to learn. Be mindful that yes, you will make mistakes, that's for sure, and then just be prepared to ask how you fix it, and be prepared, ask questions, and also be humble when you receive corrections, because hopefully the senior engineers that will be surrounding you, they want to have someone that is coachable, that respond to the feedback. So I think that's very important.
One more thing I'd like to add to that, and that's expanding on what Laura has been saying, is try to see if you can identify someone that you that could mentor you at whatever role you're at. Some companies have that more in a more structured fashion, where they'll assign you a particular mentor. Some smaller companies don't have that, and that's where you'll find that you'll have to find your own mentor. But that's, I reckon, a really important thing. And you might even have a couple of different mentors with different aspects of people that you admire in them. Yeah, try to see if you can get a good mentor that'll help you transition.
Sounds perfect. Those tips doesn't really necessarily only work in engineering field. They also work in any other industry and field as well. So the next question is how to formulate your resume for different companies. Anyone else want to take over this question?
I would say, first of all, approach to Career Connect. I think they are the best for giving those kind of guidance on how to prepare a resume. And then with the resume, so if you are applying to different roles, so make sure that you align what it is in your resume aligns with the company values with the role that they are seeking for. So if in the role description they need someone with great communication skills, and then if you have had a volunteering opportunity, say as Susan, who is kind of hosting this kind of events, then she can put up in her resume, I have done this and this and volunteer for this, and I skill up in my communication skills while preparing and volunteering for this kind of events. And then try to put the experiences that align and that demonstrate that you are good in that and that align to what the company is looking for.
Anyone else want to add on?
Yep. So one of the things which I do is that I have a CV and a resume. So how I see it as different is that a CV is a list of everything that I've done in every job or in every volunteering role. But when I'm applying for a particular job, I do not put everything in there. For example, if they're not looking for sales marketing skills, or if they're not looking for how I use my relationship building skills and things like that, then I would take those points off from my CV and then just list down the things that are relevant. And other always like I try to have like numbers in different roles, saying that I like raised grants worth $30,000. I worked on a project worth $100,000, things like that. So I think that sort of numbers on there in this resume help people to like see the quantum of work or responsibility that you have had. And the other thing is that for each of the jobs, I list down like responsibilities in 2 or 3 lines, but then also have a section for achievements. So where I sort of write down some of the key achievements that I've done, have had in those roles. So responsibility is like what everyone in that role would have done, but the achievements is what I particularly have achieved, whether it's for the organization or personally. And I think having it structured in that way sort of helps, to present it really well to the organization, and it will help you to sort of tailor the resume in a way.
Sounds good.
Yep. I've got an example of something to expand to that. I'm actually going to share my screen. I was thinking taking it even like a little bit beyond a resume. I've been kind of expanding on the idea of a personal profile lately. I actually started building one. I can quickly share that if that helps. I'll share my screen in a bit. Just bear with me for a bit. It loads.
All good. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. I'll share it. Yeah, so that's the idea of taking a resume and making like a digital portfolio out of it. And so that would be something that I guess would help you stand out a little bit more. Maybe you can, what I've been playing around is like, you can even put like an interview, someone doing an interview of yourself that there will show you communication skills. You have all your experiences. So I'll get rid of that stuff wrong. Yep. All experiences in there, and I guess it's, and then you can you know, download your resume directly from that. It's just an addition. I was just thinking of different ways that someone could stand out, and that's what we came up with. Just a different idea of doing things in addition to having a traditional resume that might spark out some ideas for some people. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now.
That looks absolutely cool. Like I've never seen something like that. It's really cool. And another thing, in my course, we do have like our teacher actually told us to build our personal profile at the start of the year, just to sort of accumulate your experience through all the years. So that's another thing that people can think about to do. And next question. So it's particularly for Pratik. Oh no, it's Pratik marked the question. So how to do research about the companies before sitting for an interview? Is it important?
So I would definitely say that it is important, because earlier Laura also mentioned that, you know, you should do your research for the company. And like, I remember when I researched my company where I applied, I actually saw the work that they do. And then they said that, you know, we have probably we have prepared a research report with this title for education institute. They hadn't mentioned the name of the institute, but then I actually looked up a few of the education institutes, just Googled it with that title, and I found the name of the university for which they had prepared that research document. And then I said that, oh yes, you know, I saw that you prepared this research document for this university, and it's quite interesting. And they were surprised that how did I find that out? That, you know, it said that like we don't have the name on our website. But then I said, look, this is how I found out. And so it's sometimes small things like that that really help them understand that you're taken the effort to actually understand what their work is, what their clients are. And in terms of researching, again, it really depends on the role. If it's going to be technical, then you should know about, you know, what sort of software they're using, what sort of client base they have, and, you know, what sort of design projects they are doing, because then the questions would be about that. Like, for example, if it's a company that is you know, into construction of roads, then there's no point for you to understand how to construct a building, like just as a simple example. So it's something like that that really helps you to you know, do the research about the company. And again, if it is into, you know, roles for like business development, sales, marketing, you should, you know, be well across the financial numbers of the company in addition to your engineering knowledge.
Yeah. Anyone wanna add on to that?
I would say that apart from, of course, visiting the website of the company and understanding what are their projects, their clients, you can also look at LinkedIn. So you can find people who is actually working there and what they have posted and what the company itself has posted and how they brand themselves. So that's a good way to go. And also in LinkedIn, you can look for the person that will interview, or the one that you have to address your cover letter, and to see like LinkedIn will give you a lot of information that can be useful and that you can take advantage on during the selection process.
Yeah, I think the other panelists have got it bang on there. And to expand to the LinkedIn thing, if you can even reach out to one of employees through LinkedIn. I've had many people reach out through me who maybe have got elements in this scope, and, you know, they're reaching out and asking, what is the work involved? What am I finding as an engineer, etc. And they're just finding out how they might align and how their skill sets might align to the company better. So yeah, I'm always happy to answer this kind of questions for people reaching out to me.
Great. So the next question is from just one moment. Next question is from Kwa Pen Wong. He asked, how do you apply for your first engineering job in Australia after you graduated? I have been trying, and most of them only accept PR during screening process.
Yeah, I had a really bad time with that. there for the longest time. I didn't have a PR, and the reality is that it's super hard, especially for me. I'm not sure which industry Con is from, but I was from aerospace, and everything you need to have a defense clearance, so I couldn't find anything. One of the things, I guess the reason I tagged that as for me to answer live, one of the things that might help is to, and I didn't actually take that advice when I was applying for work, is to not actually apply for works that are posted or jobs that are posted out there, but short circuit the process completely and approach the company before they're actually posting it. So don't give them a chance to post to I don't know how many thousands of people, and approach them, because for them recruiting is an expensive process for a company. And they can find someone who can fit in their bill, they'll jump on that person. I've seen that happen time and time again. So try to find out what companies are out there, and then approach them. Even if you want to approach them with your digital portfolio for LinkedIn, contact someone from LinkedIn, say, hey, I've got these skill sets. Can you put me in contact with whoever's looking after recruiting, even if you're not recruiting right now. Just keep me in mind, so that you're always at the background of their head when they're thinking. That's how I would approach that if I had to do that again. How I was doing it back then, I was applying for jobs that were already posted, and there I didn't have a big chance. I was competing against too many people. Yeah. Yes.
I can add a bit to that. So I was just speaking to a few recruiters recently, and that's exactly what they said, that it's just about like 60% jobs that are advertised, and the other 40% are not even advertised, and it's just filled through word of mouth. Mm-hmm. And so can you hear me?
Yes.
Right, sorry. Yep. So that's how I would go about it. And one other thing as well, which they mentioned, is that a lot of companies have the graduate programs, and of course PR would be a requirement for that program, because the whole idea of the graduate program is that you join as a fresh graduate. They sort of train you for a year or two, and then they really groom you to be working into that company. And as international students, once we graduate, we just have a 2-year visa. So technically for the companies, it doesn't really make sense to invest in us where they are not even sure whether this candidate is able to stay for 2 years or not. Stay after 2 years or not. So instead of targeting those companies that have a graduate program or that have a PR requirement, exactly as Neeraj said, that it's more about being proactive, looking up companies or even small businesses, startups, and approaching them, especially those that do not have a structured graduate recruitment program, because that's where you're more likely to get in. They might have requirement like just 1 or 2 candidates rather than hundreds every year.
Yeah. On that bit, I would like to share my experience. So I'm within a graduate program. Jacobs is a quite fairly big company that operates in multinationally, and I don't have a PR. And how I make it is the power of networking. That's the reason. Because of course, it's very different if you go through the selection process with the whole cohort, with the normal selection process. Instead, if you go through someone and you are recommended by someone to an engineer as a senior engineer, that internally they have the chance to make exceptions, then that's the way you go about it. So I wouldn't say discard the option of applying for graduate programs. I would say look if you know someone that will be able to recommend you internally in the company. I wouldn't say to give up on that, because there are pathways. It's just that you need to be smart and clever and use your network.
Great. So hopefully that answers the question that Kwapeng has. So the next question, how to deal with guidelines? That's towards all panelists.
I'll take that to answer live, and I'm assuming it's just deadlines in general, right? Mm-hmm. The reason I picked that live is because I was, especially during my undergrad, it's so bad at knowing what was happening around me. I was You know, if we had a test coming up, I would actually find out from like my mates, like when the test was. I was so disorganized. It was like not even funny. It was crazy. I don't know how I made it through my undergrad. It was a different story after that. But after I graduated, I started using, and this is very practical advice. I started using a checklist on my phone, and I still use that to this day. That's one of the main things that keeps me organized, and it's just a list of all the things that I need to do. And what that allows me to do is to just remove the worry from my brain and put it in an external thing that I can then refer to at another time. And then I'll just check things off that list, and then I'll move them up and down. And I use that in conjunction with my calendar on my phone. I know it all sounds very basic and obvious, but if you look at me during my undergrad, it was just such a mess, and it's just changed my life completely. So that's why I picked that to answer live. That's really helped me to deal with deadlines and just organize my life in general, and most importantly, to remove the constant worrying that there's something that I need to be doing right now. Just remove that and put that something external to my brain.
Yeah, and I would say deadlines will be there during all your life. It's not just uni assignments. Everything has deadlines. And I would say use your calendar. That's for what the calendar is. And also a good tip would be learn to record, have a record on how much time does it take you to complete a task. So as an example, in my current job, usual tasks that I have to complete is I have to prepare mappings, do heaps of maps. I have to prepare a report, and usually I have also to build a hydraulic model. And so say those 3 tasks. So now after each project that I have to go through, I have my little spreadsheet and I say, okay, doing this report takes me 3 days. Doing this model build takes me 1 day. And so when you are negotiating the deadlines with the project managers, you can tell them, if they tell you we need this in 1 week, you can say, well, that's a very optimistic deadline, because in my experience, it takes me to get to that point 2 weeks. So I'm not going, if we want this in 1 week, we need another person to do the job that can help me, and so we can achieve the deadline. So I think that having that record and knowing yourself and knowing how much time each task takes you will help you a lot to manage better the deadlines.
Anyone else want to add on to that? Okay, cool. So for that really sounds perfect. And for me personally, I also like always forget about things. So I'll have like post-it everywhere, like I just write down some tasks that I have to do and then deadline and then post it everywhere, like put it on my screen and things like that. That's what I normally do. And the next question is a really, really big question. Someone asked, I think Laura's as regarding interacting with professors is quite excellent. Just wanted to ask that how do you usually approach the professors? So for example, I've had quite a few of interaction with lecturers from a unit about signal processing, and I'm quite interested in the field. However, the research is much more advanced than an undergraduate would understand, and research assistant positions usually involve tasks that aren't very advanced. How would I go about asking them to assist them in their research?
I would say, first of all, professors like students to be very proactive. So there is no reason why you should be afraid of approaching them. And usually Monash professors, at least in my experience, they were very friendly. And so I would say, probably if you have the chance, well, I have just realized that probably you are not having physically present classes yet, but I would say send him an email and say that you are happy to volunteer for any project that he might have right now, and that tell him what you know what to do. Tell him that you are good at programming at Python, that you know MATLAB, and that you are happy to learn, and that yeah, that you are just very interested in that field. And surely there is going to be a positive response, because professors, they need a lot of help on their projects, and if there is someone with the technical skills required, then they will take advantage of that. So just give it a go. The worst, if they say no, then there are more professors that you can approach to. But definitely give it a go.
Anyone else want to add on to that? No. Okay, cool. That sounds good. And next question is from Nasik Ahmed. So what would you say is best in terms of progressing our career? Sticking with companies for 5 to 7 years and growing with them, or switch every 2 to 3 years? And I see Laura want to answer this.
I would say this is not a one or the other answer, and I would say is just it depends, and it depends how you are feeling in the company. And if you are very happy, then I wouldn't say there is no reason of moving. And if you feel that you are still learning, that you are still doing progress in your career, then there is no reason as to why to move. So it depends what is your experience, and definitely just see how you are feeling with the company, and based on that made your decision. And also, what are your plans for the future? What is the sector that you want to be in? If, say, the company that you are working on is not the sector, so say in my case, currently I'm in the consulting world, but I could be working for the government one day. And so if later on I decide to work for the government, then I'll find the time when I feel that it's time to move on. But that's something that goes in the journey. Like, you don't have to make a decision now. I would say you will know what to do when the time comes.
Yeah. Anyone else want to add on to it?
I can, sorry. Yeah, I can just add a bit to that. And I think it's exactly kind of what Lara said, that, what is it that you are really looking to progress? Is it progress to, the next level within the same profession or same role? Or are you looking to sort of diversify your skills and move across to a different arm? Like, for example, do you want to go from, project management to business development to, the legal team to procurement or something like that? Or do you just want to move up from like being an engineer to a senior engineer and to like a team manager? So it really depends on that, whether, if it's moving vertically upward, does your company offer you that opportunity, or are you getting that opportunity at some other company after 2 to 3 years of working experience? Or if you want to diversify, then, does your company have that sector or that offering, or, does the other company have that offering? So it's really dependent on that, rather than just a straight thing that, oh, okay, change your job every 3 years. It's not like a specific answer like that usually.
Yeah, totally agree. I know people in my organization are involving in who've been there for like 10 years. They've been within the same company, and obviously they've evolved and they've been able to keep that learning curve right up there, and they're still there. And like the other panelists are saying, it's all about how much you can keep learning with the role. And it really depends what you're after. For myself personally, as soon as the role I stop learning. If I stop learning in the role, then that's for me the cue for me to start moving on. And there's another thing to keep in mind also is that sometimes you might be evolving within a company, and you might be wanting to go in a certain direction, but maybe they don't have that role within the company. There's also an option there to create that role there within that company. And I'm thinking about my wife, who was evolving within the company, and she's from a marketing background, and they didn't have any marketing role there, and that's where she wanted to go into, and actually created the marketing role for her, and she ended up working there for many years and leading that role. So just something to keep in mind if you find yourself stuck in a particular role that you want to move in a different direction. Maybe think about that company can even create that role for you.
Great, sounds really solid tips. So that's the end of our questions, and also means that that's the end of our sessions. Huge thank you to our panelists, our alumni, and hopefully all those tips and tricks and things that they have experienced and shared with us would help you to smoothly transitioning from university life to your workforce. So just keep in mind, our alumni session is also a series. So next week, we're gonna have another session with other faculties as well. And if you have any feedbacks, please feel free to scan the QR code and answer our short survey. And lastly, a huge thank you to all our panelists. Thank you guys.
Thank you.